Hey, I think it's day 19, 20, something like that. I can't remember. It's one of those days. What's today? I think yesterday was day 18, I think. And today is 19. Don't quote me on it. The thumbnail will say it and everything else will, but I think it's day 19 and we got 2 more days. Yeah, today's day 19. Yes. Okay. It's day 19 of 21 days of wellness with the wellness professor Leo Simpson II. And man, let me tell you, folks, this has been so wellness oriented for me. Now, if you catching up and you on the backside with the recordings, I'm sure it's the same for you. If you've been following live, I hope it's the same for you, all of that. But I can tell you it's absolutely been profoundly valuable to me. And today, I want to piggyback off of something I've talked about the last couple of days and kind of get a little more granular focus on it. And that is why your value can't fill your voids. Why my value can't fill my voids, why your value can't fill your voids, and why our value can't fill our voids. You know, I remember, and I've talked about this in the context of these 21 days. I remember when I started as a certified leadership teacher, speaker, and coach back in 2012. And one of the things as I was launching in 2013 was a huge, important perspective of, do free services, give free services, give free content, free. And I was like, no. And the reason I was saying no is because I wanted to get paid. I needed to get paid. I needed to make some money. And here's what I didn't understand. We've talked about this a little bit. Of course, my perspective of doing for others is doing for self. That's first and foremost. Understand that doing for others is doing for self. At the same token, what you've got to understand is, in the context of the consumer activity, the economic structure, the moment you focus on getting for yourself, the moment you focus on, hey, I got to go do this because of what I need to get. I said focus. Let me explain that in a moment. The moment you focus on, hey, I got to do this because I got to get this, you actually approach with this temperament, this posture, this characteristic about you to where people sniff out that you are there for yourself. Ultimately, what's happening is, if I make a decision to give some value because I'm trying to fill my void, my focus is really my void, not my value. Right? I want you to catch that. And I didn't understand this back in 2012, 2013 because it wasn't a concept that I could connect with just because of presuppositions and biases and ideas that I had. And so when it comes down to it, it's very important to really make sure that you come to the clarity and the awareness, and that you understand this, that your value cannot satisfy, cannot fill your voids, your own personal voids. Okay. That means you need to say this to yourself. You need to get this into your subconscious. Soon, I'm going to talk about really the focus of our soul, right? And I've said this before, that we are a 3-part person. We are spirit, we are soul, we are body, right? That's what we are. The reason that when we die, we actually die is because our soul ceases because our spirit ceased to exist in our body, right? So our spirit separates from the body. And Solomon talks about this, my multi-billionaire mentor. Solomon talks about this. He says when we die, he said the body goes back to the ground from which it came and the spirit goes back to the one who gave it, right? And so the reality is we've got to give regard to that linking element in us, which is the soul, which is the connection. And I'm going to give some conversation. I'm going to talk about it a number of times. The soul part of us and why the soul part of us is so important. But in the soul part of us is our mind. And our mind has two layers. It has our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is what some people say our heart. Like, get this in your heart. It's not talking about the muscle. It's talking about that which is the central mental framework and capacity of our existence. All right, let me get off of that. That was a straight up digress. Okay, so what you've got to understand about your value not being able to satisfy your void is, first and foremost, you have got to get it ingrained in your subconscious. You have to say to yourself, if you need to rehearse it in order for it to get into your subconscious, you need to say it: my value cannot satisfy my voids. My value cannot satisfy my voids. And I'm a huge proponent of repetitious recitations. Not from the standpoint of being nutso, but from the standpoint of making sure you condition your subconscious, right? And so one of the ways in which the subconscious is able to be programmed with perspective that becomes a source of guidance and influence in your conscious way of thinking is repetitious recitation. Actually, it's the true definition of meditation. But that's a whole nother conversation. All right, all those Asians, right? Okay. So, get it into your heart. Get it into your subconscious that my value cannot fill my voids. The value that I have is not designed to fill my voids. That's something else you can say. The value that I have is not designed to fill my voids, right? So, if you come to understand that your value cannot fill your voids and that it's not able to do so because it's not designed to fill your own voids, then you have set yourself on a very solid platform of launching. Oh my goodness, right? And this doing for others perspective is doing for self perspective. Doing for others is doing for self perspective will be profoundly valuable for you. Matter of fact, it will make your career life a whole lot better. It will make your family life a whole lot better. It will make your friendship life a whole lot better. It will make your partnership life a whole lot better. Everything will be well. That's why I teach what I teach, because I know the production of well-being. That means you will not just have a well-being, things will be well for you. Huh? Man, I get so excited. So, listen, don't judge me in my excitement. Just pray for me. And then maybe just tolerate, because I promise you I'll give you some goodness. Okay. So, I need to make sure I reiterate this. Your value cannot fill your voids. Neither can my value fill my voids. And neither can our value fill our voids. That means we got to understand that, in the collective, had itch on my nose. In the collective, we need to understand, for example, if we're part of a team, like on that team, I need to understand my value can't fill my voids, that it's designed to fill the voids of the people on the team. All right. But then my value, your value can't fill your voids. It's designed to fill my value and the other people on the team. But then as a collective, our value cannot fill our voids. It's supposed to fill the voids of somebody we're providing some value to. Right? So that's what I mean by my, your, our. Okay. All right. So why is it that my value, your value, our value cannot fill our voids? It would be problematic if that was the case, because it would communicate that we don't need each other. And I shared this with you. I shared it with you that we are designed in the context of our existence to exist for creativity, to exist for connection, to exist for contribution. Right? We exist to create, to connect, and to contribute. And so, if we have voids and we have value, if our voids are able to be satisfied by our value, then what is the purpose for anyone else? There is no purpose for anyone else. There's no need for anyone else. There's no benefit of anyone else. There is no logical purpose for which other people need to exist if I can handle this thing all by myself. There's not. And going back to when I started as a speaker, teacher, and coach in the context of focusing on leadership, the fact that I was focused on making my money, satisfying my voids, shows that I had positioned myself to regard everybody else as useless. Listen to me and listen to me well. Prioritization is a pivotal perspective of human excellence. Prioritization is a pivotal perspective of human excellence. I'll say it again. Prioritization is a pivotal perspective of human excellence. And the main reason that prioritization is a pivotal perspective of human excellence is because prioritization can only be done by reason. And reason can only be done by those who have the capacity of intelligence, intellect, and language. Let me just tell you something. The creatures, they don't have intellect, intelligence, and language. They have instinct, but they don't have intellect, intelligence, and language. And the main way you know they don't have intelligence and intellect is because they don't have language capacity. The creation, it doesn't have intellect, intelligence, and language. And language is the indicating element that there is a presence of intellect and intelligence. Okay, so prioritization, the fact that we can prioritize says that we can actually focus in, we can lock in, we can dial in, we can actually hone in on something with a focus of intentionality and shift from it or shift to it. Prioritization means that we have the ability to make a decision. Let's talk about decision for a moment. I love talking about decisions because I actually teach a problem solving and decision making class at the community college level. That was the first class I actually started teaching at the community college level, and I love it. Oh my God, this is probably my favorite class to teach. I really think it could be called business psychology, but a lot of people probably wouldn't take it if it was called business psychology. But man, problem solving, decision making. One of the things I really deal with is giving the appropriate definition of decision. To decide is not to make a choice. And the reason it is not to make a choice is because to choose means to pick one, basically. But you got to go into the word itself, decide. The word de means of, or away from or out of, right? De means of, away from, or out from, right? For example, de la Cruz, de la Cruz, right? That word de, of, or away, or from. It depends on the usage. But in this case with decide, side means to cut, right? So you can actually use all of those different definitions of de, with side. So to cut of, right? It's an appropriate definition. But to get greater in clarity with side, you say to cut out or to cut away from. Now watch this. Here's the opposite of decision. It's incision. to cut inwardly, to cut into, right? And so when you're making a decision, you're actually having defined and intentional prioritization, which means you are isolating yourself intentionally with commitment into something. So you have to decide that your value is of profound value. You also need to decide that your voids are valuable and need value to fill them. But you must absolutely decide, look at my head going, no. You must decide that your value is not the value designed to fill your voids. And therefore, you must decide to prioritize your value as an element of releasing to other people's voids. Doing for others is doing for self. Now listen to me. I think that this is a chief, meaning there are other chief perspectives of wellness, but this, I believe, is a chief perspective of wellness because it is important that you understand, that I understand, that we all understand that, listen to me carefully, that our value is absolutely meant to enrich the voids of others. Watch this. How can you enrich the voids of others? Well, to enrich means to put wealth into. And we've talked about that wealth is the measurable level of our existence, and wellness is the mindful level of our existence. And when you have wealth, it means that there's presence of wellness. So really, when you enrich someone, when you put riches into, when you give wealth, give wellness to someone, you are filling their voids, eliminating their voids, and amplifying their value. So really, the fact that our voids cannot be satisfied by ourselves, it really means that we are designed to take our voids and give our value, take our value and give our value to others to fill their voids in order to amplify and even elevate them, amplify their voids and amplify their value and elevate them in their value. Okay? We got to take our value, not focusing on our voice, we got to take our value, and then we need to fill the others' voids to amplify their value and to elevate them in their value. I got to say it again. We must take our value, and in taking our value, we must fill the voids of others with our value to amplify their value and elevate them in their value. And if we fail to do that, we are indicating two things: that we do not want wellness, though we want it, and that we cannot have wellness, though we need it. If we fail to focus on our value, what we are going to do is we're going to put ourselves in the position to where, by focusing on our voids, we're going to eliminate our ability not only to have our voids filled, but to experience the wellness that we have desire and need for. We cannot use our value to satisfy our own voids because it's not possible. As well as, if we do so, we make ourselves to be insignificant. Our value was not designed to satisfy ourselves directly. It was designed to satisfy ourselves indirectly by actually enriching other people with our value, by satisfying their voids, and positioning others, maybe not the same people we enrich, but positioning others to then enrich our voids with their value. Period. Very important perspective to understand. And so I'm about to get off my podium, but I want you to realize that your value is profoundly valuable. Your value is profoundly enriching. Your value is extremely expansive. However, if you seek to use your value to fill any of your voids, you are diminishing the extent of benefit that exists within your value. And I learned this the hard way. Like when I shared about what I did and what I didn't do, more so when I started as a teacher, speaker, coach in the leadership arena, the truth is I was sabotaging myself and didn't even know it. When you try to satisfy your voids with your value, you are literally sabotaging yourself. You and I were both created to create value for someone else, to connect with somebody else so we could create value with them. And in creating value for them and connecting with them, we can actually have a tangible release, which is contribution of that value. You are valuable. And you know, that's one of the things before I get out of here that is a huge point of interest to me today. Such that we have a whole effort with regard to helping people, you know, be able to discover the value, to have discovery and demonstration with regard to doing for others is doing for self. Literally, we take people through a discovery experience with regard to really understanding why doing for others is doing for self. Like we give you content delivery in that regard so that you can have an educational experience about it. But then educational experience is not where we stop. We put you in a position to experience application because we understand demonstration, you know, with a solution that's created allows you to then be able to put into practice what it is you've discovered and absolutely experience mastery through it, right? And so we have an effort called Transform Kids' Minds where the focus is to encourage the worth and value of kids so that we can help them protect themselves against bullies, prevent suicide, and to stay out of prison, okay? Now, here's why I bring this up. When you really understand that your value is profound, that your worth is profound, and that your value is not designed to satisfy you directly, but to be a reciprocating satisfaction, which is in a manner where it's indirect, because when you go and do for others, guess what? You position yourself for others to do for you. That's how it's designed to be, right? But when you do that, you do so because you understand your value, right? People who do not do for others because they don't understand that doing for others is doing for self, or people who do for others and they do it casually, they do it grudgingly, they do it by necessity. It is because they don't understand that their value is designed for other people, right? Well, just imagine if a kid really is not experiencing the edification of their worth and value, right? Just imagine if a kid is not experiencing, when I say edification, I mean the building up, the elevating of them in their worth and value. Just imagine if a kid, they're trying to really grow and develop, but they're just kind of casually moving about and they're dealing with difficulties and nobody's building up their worth and value. And next thing you know, they're being dealt with by the bullies in a way that they begin to consider taking their lives as an option and going into a life of crime in order to maybe kind of, satisfy themselves and kind of get some soothing. And next thing you know, they end up in prison. Like, that's really the trajectory. And what can help that? Elevating their worth and value. Now watch this. So, doing for others is doing for self. And in the context of it, it really derives from what we call the hidden billionaire success strategy, which is Be consistent in meeting the needs of those who cannot help themselves and cannot do back for you. So if you don't really know how valuable your value is, well, you need somebody who can tell you how valuable your value is so that then you can go make use of it. Meaning, if you don't know how valuable your value is, you have a void. Now, guess what? Kids today have a profound void. They really don't know their worth and value. And here's how we help them understand their worth and value. We give them the 5 greatness sins. We give it to them in the third person. We give it to them in the first person. First, in the third person, we say, hey, you are loved. Adults need this too, by the way, so you might need it. You are loved. You are unique. You are valuable. You were created for greatness and great things. You were created to live a life of contribution. We tell them really what the design is. They were created for creativity, for connection, and contribution. Like we tell them. But then, in the first person, we then teach them how to say it themselves. I am loved. I am unique. I am valuable. I was created for greatness and great things. I was created to live a life of contribution. What are we trying to do? We are taking our value and understanding of our value and then enriching their voids so as to eliminate it and elevate, to amplify and elevate their value. So that when they deal with bullying, which you might, bullying is not really something that's good, but you got to understand bullying, unfortunately, is like a personification of difficulties in life. Difficulties in life seem to try to bully us. You see? They be trying, difficulties in life be trying to bully us. And so we got to say, hey, what you doing? We here to dominate you. You ain't here to dominate us. And you have to do that with finesse at the same time. So that's why we give them the perspective. Okay. So watch this. We share that with them. And by them having an ability, watch this, having an ability to communicate their value and remember the value of their value. I like saying that sometimes. Then if they are bullied, if they understand it enough, which we seek to teach them that, actually I do that with my daughters on a regular basis. When we teach them that, what happens is the kid knows how to experience the bullying and look the bully in the eye and say, you know what? You're loved. You're unique. You're valuable. You were created for greatness and great things, and you were created to live a life of contribution. And this is not a reflection of who you really are. Why are you doing this? Kids can cause bullies to break down. Giving them firepower, putting fire hoses in their hand to be able to utilize filling voids in order to amplify value and elevate people in their value. Why does a bully? It's because they are prioritizing their own void in the sense of trying to fill their void with their own value. So you shouldn't try to fill your own voids with your own values, because what it causes is you to become a bully in the environment around you. You don't seek to connect, you seek to condemn. You seek to be confrontational and conflict-oriented unintentionally. So, let me encourage you, do not focus on, do not prioritize, do not decide that your voids are priority. Decide, focus on, give attention to your value, and that being valuable to other people's voids. And I can guarantee you, I'm seeing it. Like, I didn't got corrected. I have gotten corrected. And that I get the picture very clearly that my voids can only be satisfied by somebody else's value. And in order to be positioned for my voids to be satisfied by somebody else's value, I need to make sure I have a decisive prioritization of the perspective of my value filling the voids of others. All under the hidden billionaire success strategy of doing for others is doing for self, by making sure you are being consistent and meeting the needs of those who cannot help themselves and cannot do back for you. So, what are you supposed to go and say? Right? What are you supposed to go and say? You're supposed to go and say to yourself, my value cannot fill my voids. And then say, my value is not designed to fill my voids. And then focus yourself on, prioritize yourself on, decide upon making sure your value is intentionally released in the way of satisfying the voids of others. You be well while I get off of this podium. And as I often say, be great. You hear me now?